Buying versus renting has always been a question that I've been asked. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the right choice will be. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nav, and if you're new here, we talk about personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and a whole lot more. So make sure you guys smash that subscribe button because I upload twice a week and you definitely don't want to miss out. So after doing some research, I noticed this is quite a popular topic, and I'm personally from Toronto, so I can really only just speak on behalf of Toronto. So depending on where you live, this may or may not apply to you. So before we begin, I do want to just go over the fundamentals between just buying and renting a property. So when you are renting a property, here are a couple things you need to know. So first off, landlords are very similar to mortgage lenders. They're going to want to know how consistent your income is, maybe an employment letter, your credit score, and even a picture of your bank statement just to see how much cash you have on hand. And it's quite understandable, guys. The last thing a landlord wants in their rental property is a tenant who's not going to pay on time or who may potentially default. So typically speaking, if you are a student, landlords do have a pretty bad stigma when it comes to students living in their rental property, so expect it to be a little bit more difficult. As soon as the landlords hear that you're a student, they're gonna think about parties and broken doors and damaged walls and scratched up everything, so just expect it that if you are a student, getting a rental could be a little bit more difficult. Again, as soon as a landlord finds out that you have maybe toddlers or kids in the ranges of under 5, they know that you could potentially get their walls scratched and all that kind of stuff. And trust me, guys, from my experience, I've been in rental properties where there's been crayons written all over the walls because there was kids in the house. Also, owning pets could be a big red flag because at the end of the day, guys, after you leave and you have a pet, the home may smell like pets, and this may just make the life of the landlord a little bit more difficult. So owning a pet could reduce your chances of getting a rental property. So what you can really take away from these fundamentals is that landlords are quite picky, and it's really just based on your lifestyle. And again, it is understandable because if you were a landlord yourself, you would want the best possible tenants in your home to treat your property like a gem. And that's just what it comes down to. I mean, you really don't have a choice. That's the big thing about rental properties is you don't have much of a say when you're renting a property. It's not your property. So right now, specifically in the city of Toronto, rental properties are extremely hot. The demand for rental properties are so high that some of them even go for multiple offers and go over asking on the rental price. I mean, guys, it's crazy. I mean, there's a listing for $2,000 a month, and the next thing you know, it's rented out for $2,150 a month, and the potential tenants paid 6 months up front, and I've even seen cases where people pay 12 months up front. So those are just some of the things that you're gonna expect if you end up shopping for a rental property. Now, of course, guys, if you are renting a property, there are some perks. For example, you don't have to pay for any of the maintenance on the property. If the roof started leaking or the AC stopped working, or maybe the stove is just not doing well, these are all expenses that the landlord is going to have to take care of. You also don't need to pay property tax yearly on the property because you don't own it. In terms of utilities, this is something you're always going to have to pay for because it is metered based off of usage, so it only makes sense that the tenants pay for what they use. You are going to need tenants insurance, which is going to get you covered on the property, and this is usually mandatory by the landlord. And the main thing to take away here is that you're actually not building any equity at all. You're actually helping the landlord build free equity through this rental property. And guys, if you haven't seen my previous videos uploaded, I'll leave them down in the description below, but owning a property is actually quite similar, but with some differences, of course. So when you're buying a property, like I mentioned before, it's actually quite similar to the landlord's requirements, except you're dealing with the big banks. Again, the banks are going to want to see high and consistent income for the past 2 years. They're going to want to see good credit, and of course, the most important part is they're going to want a down payment. When it comes to your income, the banks are going to want to see consistent income for the past 2 years from the same exact employer. Depending on your credit score, this is the best way for the banks to evaluate your risk when they're lending you thousands and thousands of dollars. And finally, your down payment, which is usually a minimum of 5 to 10%, which is really the most important part here because imagine we didn't need a down payment to buy a property. I mean, rental properties would probably never exist and we would all buy homes for 0% down. Oh, that house is 500,000? Oh yeah, I'll take 4 of those. Yeah, I have no down. Yeah, no down payment. I mean, come on guys, like imagine that was the case. I mean, it would be a piece of cake, really. It would really be a piece of cake. So that really just brings us, what is the main difference between buying and renting a home? Well, first off, when you're renting, your money is not working for you. Your money instead is just paying off the landlord's mortgage. Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, is that when you do buy a property, a home is a long-term investment, meaning you should be considering to keep a specific property for at least 5 to 10 years. It's not like a stock or like an object that you can buy one day and then decide to sell it 6 months later and hopefully make a profit. I mean, that's not how it works. You want to buy a home with the vision in mind that you're going to hold this property for at least 5 to 10 years. And with that being said, specifically in Toronto, property prices have doubled every 10 years. So not only when you own a home, you're building equity by paying a mortgage, but you're also banking on future appreciation as well. Which means that the property value is gonna continue to grow as the economy continues to grow as well. And again, guys, I can only speak on behalf of the city I personally live in myself, but specifically in Toronto, I mean, we're getting thousands and thousands of new jobs every year and over 300,000 new immigrants moving into Toronto annually, which would only just drive the price of land way up. And so what it all comes down to, guys, is that when you buy a property, your money will eventually work for you. And to make this even more easier to understand, let me break down some simple math for you. If you were to rent out a 1-bedroom condo in the city of Toronto, this will usually cost you $2,000 a month. If you were to save that $2,000 a month for 12 consecutive months, you would save a total of $24,000. So now let's go house shopping with that $24,000 that you've saved up. If you were to go over to a $500,000 property, and let's just say that your mortgage application is perfect and you get approved with a 5% down payment, which is $25,000, your mortgage payment would actually end up being $2,150. And so the main difference here really is $150, and you actually get to own the property. It's completely yours. You can personalize it how you'd like. You grow equity and you're building future value. And with that being said, guys, I mean, I don't personally agree with people who think that renting is better than buying because, well, again, it really just depends on where you live. In Toronto specifically, it makes absolutely no sense. Typically speaking, in the rental property market, I mean, the lease prices are very close to what your mortgage payments would be with a 10% down payment. In some cases, it may be 5% down. And so what you guys want to take away from this is that the rental prices in the market today are very similar to what your mortgage payments would be if you were to just finance the property instead with a specific down payment. If you guys are not familiar with how a mortgage works, then I'll actually link a video down in the description below that breaks down the exact process and how to get a mortgage on your first home. With that being said, guys, that's my take on buying versus renting. If you can afford the down payment, I highly suggest you buy instead of renting. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Like I mentioned before, my name is Nav. Make sure you guys smash that like button and comment down below what you guys think about buying versus renting. I'll see you guys in the next video.